Hi. Okay, so today we're going to talk about solving angle relationships with transversals. And let's talk about some important vocabulary that we need to remember. This is all vocabulary that we've learned, but let me just do a quick refresher. So the first thing that I need you guys to remember is, how do you guys feel about purple today? Yeah, let's go with purple. Okay, the first thing that you need to remember is vertical angles. So, right vertical angles right here. Now, hopefully, all of y'all remembered that vertical angles are the angles that form like an X, kind of like this, and that the opposite parts of them are congruent. So, this top part here is congruent to this bottom part here, and then the two sides are also congruent. All right, so that's our first thing that we need to remember. The next thing that we need to remember is a linear pair. Now remember, a linear pair is two angles that form a line, and they add to equal 180. So a linear pair is going to somehow form a straight line and have another angle. And remember, if this one was 120, then this one would be 60 because together they form 180 degrees. And the last thing that we need to talk about is parallel lines. So parallel lines are two lines that are never going to touch each other. The big thing you need to remember about parallel lines is that if there is a double arrow like this, that is the indicator that they are indeed parallel. So when you see those double arrows, that lets you know that they are parallel. And the reason I'm telling you that is because the angles we're working with today, if the two transversal lines are parallel, then the angle relationships are going to be true. Last, I want to write a side note over here that you can write up here because I know that it's covered on your homework: skew lines. Skew lines are, we don't really talk about them very much, but they're two lines. They intersect, but they're on different planes. So if I have a plane like this, and then I had a line going through the plane, that's a terrible line. That would be skew lines. So if one of my lines, if the line that was intersecting was right here on that plane, and then the other one was going on a different plane, that would be what skew lines are. All right, so let's get back to our angle relationships. All right, our alternate interior and our alternate exterior. Any time I see the word alternate and I have parallel lines, I need to remember that those are congruent. I didn't leave a lot of space here, so these are both congruent. If I'm looking at corresponding angles, those are also congruent. Now, if I'm looking at the same side angles, whether it be interior or exterior, those are going to be supplementary, which goes with our linear pair and 180 degrees. Now, I want to remind you really quick about corresponding angles. Those are really the trickiest angles that we deal with. So the thing about corresponding angles is they have to be on top of the parallel lines. So if you look at this carefully, one of my angles here is outside of the house, and one of my angles is inside of the house. So really, they don't fit any of the rules of same side angles. They're not both interior, they're not both exterior. So anytime you have one inside the house, one outside the house, those are corresponding. Like if I had these down here below the line, this one is inside and this one is outside. So that's how we know that those are corresponding. And here's the cool part about this rule. If you look right here at these two angles that I have just formed, these green and yellow angles, green and orange, if I look at angle 1 and angle 2, those are vertical angles. And now if I look at angle 2 and angle 3, those are alternate interior. And if I look at angle 3 and 4, those are also vertical. So all 4 of those angles are congruent. So if you know this angle down here, then you will know this angle right here. So once you kind of get to know that those are all 4 congruent, so if those are all 4 congruent, then that means these on the opposite sides are congruent with each other. And that means any of those 2 angles that add together are going to be supplementary. All right, let's do some quick examples. All right, the first one we have, example 1, those are corresponding. So I have on top of the line, on top of the line. So if they're corresponding, that means they're congruent. So if they're congruent, what do you think I'm going to do? Think for a minute. Set them equal to each other. 11x plus 9. All right. So I always like to subtract the smaller x. If you subtract the smaller x, you don't have to, but it helps you to not have negative numbers. So that's just my rule. Minus 11x, minus 11x. And that's going to bring down an x and a 3 and a 9. Minus 3, minus 3. So my x is going to be 6. Okay, so now I know that x is 6. I do want to point out that sometimes they are going to ask you to plug your x back in. So if the question said, what is the angle measure of this angle? Then we would take 12x plus 3 and we would plug it in. So 12, instead of my x, I'm going to put my 6 plus 3. So that's 12 times 6 is 72 plus 3. That means it would be 75 degrees. So this angle right here is 75 degrees. And really with just one angle measure, I could find the measures of all the other angles with that transversal line. All right, let's look at angle number 2. All right, example 2. So I have my transversal line and they're both on the right side and they're both interior angles. So those must be same side interior. So if I look up here at my rule, same side interior angles are going to be supplementary. So they're going to equal 180 degrees. So I'm just going to add both angle pieces up together and set them equal to 180 degrees. So 17x plus 4x plus 14. Oh, that's a minus 2. Make sure you watch your negatives, because if not, minus 2. And of course, technology is not cooperating. Minus 2 equals 180. And if you're wondering where I got those numbers from, I got them from right here. 17x plus 14 and 4x minus 2. So now I'm just going to combine my like terms. 17x and 14x is 21x. Then 14 minus 2 is 12 equals 180. And this is just a basic 2-step equation. So subtract 12 from both sides. And that's going to give me 21x equals 168. If I divide both sides by 21, x will be 8. Okay, again, I need you to remember that if it asks you what the angle measure is, sometimes it's going to say solve for x. Sometimes it's going to say, what is the angle measure? So if it says, what is this angle measure down here, then we would have to go and plug it in. 4x minus 2. I really want to make that a plus today. And then I would go 4 times 8 minus 2. So that would be 32. 8 times 4 is 32 minus 2 is 30 degrees. Now, that doesn't really look like a 30-degree angle. So that's probably something else we should talk about. Sometimes in geometry, your picture is not going to match your number. Most of the time it will. So if you get the answer of 5 and you can see that it is an obtuse angle, then you probably need to make sure that you did your math right. But occasionally, people make up problems and don't really look to see what the end angle measure is. So sometimes you're going to get an answer that you look at it and you're like, that doesn't really look like a 30-degree angle. So always follow your rules and always follow the math. Okay? All right, I'm going to erase all of that. And we will go down to example number 3. All right, example number 3. Okay. So this one has a lot of moving parts. So let's see. I like to just look at it. It's a giant puzzle and we have to work through it. So I like to look, what information do I have? So I want to look at this linear pair right here because that looks like a pretty, well, I was trying to make that a color. That looks like a pretty good piece of information there. And I only have one variable. So I can easily say that 2y plus 106 is 180. And you guys can solve that. You subtract 106 from each side, which gives you 74. And then divide by 2, and it gives you 37. Now, here is going to be your big hint for the day. I really, really encourage you to go back and plug these in, because if you can see the angle measure in the picture, it can help you see what pieces you have. So this angle right here is 2y, and I know that if I multiply 37 by 2, it's going to give me 74. So I'm going to put 74 degrees in. And now I'm going to look at my vertical angles. If this is 74, then I can go across over here and this is 74. Okay, so now I'm on the right track. Now let's keep going. If this one right here is 106, this one up here is 106 because these are corresponding. Okay, so I know that 106 and 74 make a linear pair. So now I know that if this one is 74, that this one is 74. And oh, look at this. This x right here is 74. So I've already found another one. X equals 74. I didn't have to do any more math. But now I have to deal with this, these two angles right here. Now, if we want to look at this as a transversal, tilt your head sideways, and you can see that they're both on the same side. They're both on this, let's call that, if I'm tilting my head to the right, let's call this the left side, and they're in between my lines. Like here's my house, so they're in between my lines. So those are going to be supplementary, plus they're next to each other. Anytime I have two angles right next to each other, they're going to equal 180 degrees. So I have 4z right here, plus 6, plus that 74 is going to equal 180. So now I can combine my numbers. 6 and 74 is 80. So 4z plus 80 equals 180. Could subtract 80 from both sides. That's going to give me 4z equals 100. And if I divide by both sides by 4, z is going to equal 25. Now, you can see that was a little tricky. We had to do several parts, but none of it was hard. It was just we had to think. So I really encourage you to label your angles as you go, as you find out your pieces, because that really will help you to solve the rest of the puzzle. All right, now let's look at 2 more examples, and then you guys can get started working today. All right, example 4. All right, this one also looks a little tricky. So let's take a look at that and see what do we need to do to solve this one. I'm gonna let y'all look at it for just a minute. Does anyone see a linear pair? Let's see, what color am I on? Let's make sure I'm on a, not black. All right, so if I look at this line right here, and I look at this line right here, I have a linear pair, so this one, right? I wonder if I could match that up to anything. So if I extended this line and I extended this line, look, I have a transversal now, right? I could even make this go out a little bit to have it fit our picture. Okay, so now can I look at this one and this one? Because those would be alternate interior. I'm going to draw the little house so you can see inside. So I know that this angle is equal to this angle, right? So I'm going to write it in because that's going to help me. It's going to help me solve my puzzle. All right, 3x minus 40. Okay, now do you see something that we can solve a linear pair on? Is this piece right here a linear pair? It is. Do I have information in both of those angles? I do. So now we just have to add them all up. 3x minus 40 plus this x over here, because we have to add this whole thing, is going to equal 180. And then we just start combining things. So 3x plus 1x is 4x minus 40, 180. My brain is getting ahead of my fingers. Plus 40 plus 40. I have 4x equals 220. Divide by 4, and my x is going to equal 55. All right, that was easy. So what kind of angle pair were these? These were a supplementary pair. You could also say it was a linear pair. So there you go. All right, not as hard as it looked. One more. Trying to go slow so y'all can write everything down. All right, last one. All right, guys, how many people are already looking at this and saying, this is hard, what do I got going on here too much? I can see it. Even though I can't see you, I can see you. So, well, let's look at what we know first. Do we have any alternate pairs? So remember, see my little parallel lines here, these little arrows that tell me it's parallel. I've got this one and I've got this one. So then I have my transversal right here. Oh, look, 18 and 2y. I'm going to write that down. 18 equals 2y. Now let's see what else we have while we're looking. Oh, I have 3x in 11z. 3x equals 11z. Now here's a quick question. Can I solve this one right now? No, I have two variables. So we need some more information. But what I can do is I can solve this 18 equals 2y. So let's look at that. 18 equals 2y, so divide by 2, and y equals 9. Look at that. That's my y. I'm going to put it right there, 9. So now I'm going to keep looking to see what I have. Okay, I'm going to erase some of my markings here because I want y'all to look at it with fresh eyes. And let's take a look at it again. All right, so I really need to figure out what to do with this 63 down here, because I have a feeling if they gave it to me, I'm gonna need it for something. So, oh, I'm on an eraser. Okay, so if, let's look at that one. And let's extend this line here and this line here. Oh, now I see a transversal here. And if I wanted to look at just these inside the house, I would have this one and this one. So I have same side interior angles. They're both on the right, they're both inside my lines. So I know that same side interior angles are going to equal 180. So I'm just going to come over here and put equals 180. So now I'm going to add all of the things. So I have a 63 and I have a 3x. 3x is right here. And then I have over here an 18. Now I know that this looks weird that we're adding these two angles up, but we can. They're right next to each other. There's no reason that we can't. So now I have an equation. I can solve it. I'm good to go. So let's add our 63 and our 18. That's going to give me 81. So I'm going to bring my 3x down plus 81. If I subtract my 81 from both sides, let's see, that's going to be 99. Divide by 3. And x is going to equal 11. Right? 99 divided by 3 is not 11. Just kidding. Even teachers make mistakes. 33. 99. My brain just completely went AWOL. Let's go with 33. All right, so x is 33. All right, so now I need to plug in the x into my equation up here. So I'm going to switch back to orange. So 3 times x equals, what was that? 3x, oh, that was an 11. 11z. Okay, so we know our x is 33, so we're going to plug it in up here. And since we already did that math, 3 times 33 is 99 equals 11z. And if we divide both sides by 11, that's going to give me 9. So z is going to equal 9. So look at that. We have 2 9s. And again, if it came back and it had letters and it said, what is the measure of angle ABC? You would look to see what that angle is, and you would plug in the appropriate variable to the appropriate part. All right, guys, have a great day. I hope that this was a good video and helped you, and see you next time.